What's up? I am making a video on borderline personality disorder, just sort of like what I've been through, like insights and stuff like that. Just because, like, I remember when I first realized I had this specific thing, I was like scouring the internet for things, and there was a lot of stuff that made me not hopeful at all. And I was like, you know, it was scary, and like, I got all the books and all the resources, like, you know, um, what is it? I hate you, don't leave me, or I might probably got that wrong, but it was a long time ago, like 5 years ago. But all those books, just like the big books that people read and they think about of borderline personality disorder, and a lot of them are like disheartening and scary and don't make you feel better about anything or the prognosis or. So this video is not going to be like overly like dramatic and painting everything with like a, everything's perfect and happy and good, but I just want to make this because I wish that someone I would have seen a video like this back in the day, because there's really no videos on the internet, or like, I remember just being in the line at like getting dropped off to high school, and I was like, will this ever get better? And like, there was people on Reddit like, no, and stuff like that, and it just was really like, not what I wanted to hear. So, my life isn't perfect now by any stretch of the imagination, and like, I still am going through obviously like the regular ups and downs of life, and living with, I don't really consider myself to have borderline personality disorder anymore. I mean, I have some traits, like tiny, not even traits. It's crazy. Like, I never thought I would get to this place, but like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's not even something I really think of myself as having. Like, it's not like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't have BPD anymore. But you're like, wow, this used to trigger me and now it doesn't trigger me. It's like weird. Like, you get desensitized. It's kind of like you never wake up one day and say, oh, I'm successful, I'm where I want to be. It's like always kind of out of your reach. And like, I've just kind of like improved and gone on and on and on. But so I will just start out with like the basics. So like, my early childhood and generational trauma that like kind of contributed to my borderline personality disorder and developing it. So when I was like a child, and this is not to trash my mom, because my mom did everything she could do, and but this is from like the prerequisites. That was one of my triggers. Obviously, borderline personality disorder has a lot to do with abandonment, feelings of abandonment, and worried about leaving. And even if this didn't happen to me, this experience, this trauma, which I'm qualifying now, I probably don't need to qualify it, but I would still probably have the condition, because it's kind of like runs in my family, if that makes sense. But so when we were kids and we would act up and be bad, my mom would leave the house, like if we were out of control. So I would be there with my brothers, and there would be this chaos because I have 3 older brothers, and we'd all be fighting, crying, and screaming. My mom would just leave. So it would just be us stuck there, complete chaos. And I began to associate like fighting and feelings of like shame and guilt, like I made my mom leave and it's my fault and I'm no good, with my mom leaving. So like, that was a reoccurring thing throughout my life. I was always worried she was going to abandon me again. And then obviously when I got in a relationship, it kind of carried over and stuff like that. And then, growing up, there was also like, my household was kind of had a lot of like turbulence, if that makes sense. Like a lot of like fighting and screaming and yelling, and like just like you kind of numb yourself out to it, you know what I mean? Just like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to explain. Like, it becomes your normal, I guess. But like, just seeing people fight and scream and yell and cry and just, like, even still I carry some of that trauma with me, obviously, but like just like just like whenever I'm in a big crowd of people, or like I was at the gym the other day and some 2 guys were like getting into it, it kind of makes me feel like kind of takes me back to them, like just feeling helpless, like a little kid that can't do anything, that can't help his dad just like discipline his brother or break up his brothers from fighting, just feeling powerless and helpless. So going on, I always had extreme anxiety. Like throughout middle school, I dropped out of 6th grade because I had panic attacks. Like, I know I'm smiling and laughing. It's serious, but I'm just sharing this. So like, I always had extreme anxiety, and like, I think this is a lot of people's experience with borderline personality disorder, but like, you feel like there's like something more. It's like, it's, yes, it's anxiety, but it's something more because it's like specific, like, and it has to do with relationships. And like, I was like, something is not right. It kind of like, you take a step back and you're like, oh, I see the patterns, which is one of my biggest things, is like recognizing patterns. But so um it popped up, and like, I had breakups in high school, and like my relationships in high school, like, I it was like I was so attached, and I was so in love, and it was this great romantic thing. And I remember so in love with this girl, like really just so in love, and I just completely enamored. And then she had to move away, and I was heartbroken, so sad, became numb. And that was like my first experience of like, and honestly, in that specific sense, explicitly, that was like my only experience of self-harm. I like just took a knife, because you know when you have so much internal pain, like you have so much pain on the inside, it was almost like you want to feel it on the outside. So like, I didn't realize that that's like a common thing. Like, obviously people like us that have borderline personality disorder can like do things like that for attention, but at the same time, like sometimes it really is like a direct coping mechanism, just like the way like people binge eat, which I did, or like taking a drug or drinking or doing something crazy like shoplifting or driving your car fast, which I also did. um it's like a way of just distracting yourself from the pain. Like, it's real, because then there's something going on physically, and it's like the physical always takes precedent over like your mental state. But anyways, so like, I just always had those relationships, and then I remember like having another relationship in high school. After that, I finally kind of like moved past that. And the self-harm thing, I guess for me more was like, I realized like, I don't know, like, well, I was actually really worried about going to the hospital. Like, I was worried I was gonna, because I had a knife pressed to my forearm, and like I was pressing it on me, and then it like slipped in, and I was so worried that I was gonna have to go to the hospital. I'm like, that's the last thing I want right now. But I was just in a very depressed and dark and sad like place, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know, I just, you know, I was almost ruminating in that, and like, I was in a horrible place. But I realized like self-harm in that explicit sense, like, it wasn't for me, honestly. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but like, if you know what I mean, like, I turned to other things, obviously, that weren't helpful at all, but like substance abuse, which we'll get into. So then I had my first serious relationship, and I realized like I had these like push pull, like I would like feel like I didn't need the person at all, and I was too good and didn't need them, and they were nothing to me. And then I just remember, this is the time I really realized like something is up, something is seriously like, something's different about me than the rest of people. Like I was like, oh, I don't need it. And then like when I thought like we were texting, we were on the ropes or something, I was out of town, it was like the end of the world. Like literally felt like my world was coming to an end, like completely, like just falling apart, completely falling apart, like end of the world. And then we finally started, like, we make up, and it would be like, oh, everything's good again. And I recognized that pattern, and I recognized that relationship wasn't good for me. But going through that breakup, like, was a super, super dark place. And like, I I was definitely like abusing alcohol even in high school. Like, I would be drinking vodka and beer and just anything just to numb myself. Like, I would even get headaches and stuff in the evenings when I was at my job, because I was so like, just drinking just to cope with the pain and everything like that. And so that was like that relationship, and I realized like that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like, that something is definitely seriously wrong. And I always like felt, which is another symptom of BPD, like I always felt emotions way more like than other people did. And I sort of like, I knew that like in a sense like people don't feel like I feel. Like when someone like does something to me, it's like whoa, like dagger in the heart. Like it's not like oh, just brush it off. You know what I mean? So I let's just scroll through here. I kind of have a tentative list I'm talking about. I don't know if anyone's gonna see this, but you know what? I am gonna just share my story because if this helps someone else out, you know, that's all I can ask for. Um, so I got diagnosed actually like after college. After college, during college. So after high school, I had everything that happened so far, but like I knew something was just seriously wrong. COVID really took a toll on me. Like, you know, obviously I was still with my family, but like I've always had this fear of abandonment, like an extreme fear of abandonment. Like I hate being alone. I feel like no one's gonna come back. Like it, like I have like, also like my partner's not gonna like be with me and like just stuff like that. And like my partner doesn't want to be with me anymore. And I feel like I'm rambling here. Anyways, so when I actually got diagnosed with BPD, it's a relief, but like you have to be careful not to use it as like a crutch, which I feel like everyone kind of does in the beginning, because like this, it's like this whole time you know something's different about you and you know something's like wrong, but you can't put your finger on it, and then finally you can like say like this is wrong. So it's like a natural like response to want to like kind of use that as like a I don't know, a crutch or like a shield, and because it feels like it's vindication, honestly, for like everything that you've been through, and it kind of like validates your experience. But you know, obviously you can't just be like, oh, I have borderline personality disorder and that's my life and this is why I do all these things, because you're not going to make any progress to getting better. So like some of the therapies that helped me honestly were like, I feel like I'm skipping around here. So like I was thinking of going through the DSM and like just going through the 9 symptoms of borderline personality disorder and talking about them, but I think I might do that in another video. So I was just gonna talk about like the therapies I tried. The nothing, and this sounds like really wishful thinking for people, because like it's hard to have relationships with BPD, but like nothing is as curing as a healthy relationship. And I know that like you're probably thinking to yourself, well, duh, but like I can't have healthy relationships because of what I do, and like I totally understand that, but like it's like, okay, so like hear me out. There's certain people you know, even when you have borderline personality disorder, that aren't good for you. And there's certain people that you know that can appreciate you even in that state. Like there's people that can still love you and appreciate you and nourish you. And if you don't have that, like my dog has been another great like source of just like unconditional love and feeling like can love you and you can just be yourself. And that's another thing, like pets is so underrated. Like having a dog that just wants to be there and is so excited and be love you, and just it can be so healing. But anyways, health relationships, they kind of like they change you, because like growing up, and this is obviously like not everyone can have this, but I'm just saying for the people that can have this, like um growing up, you know, I witnessed like broken marriage and you know all these relationships that were so toxic and not healthy, and then like having a relationship that can be healthy, it kind of like wow, like it opens up a new part of your brain, like that can actually be my reality too. So just like sharing your emotions, and like it's taught me so much. Like when I first had a girlfriend and stuff, like whenever we would even get in a disagreement, I would have to leave the room, because like that's like how my family would handle, like, you know, obviously my mom would, when we would fight and stuff, she would just leave, and like I was just like reenacting that trauma. But like my girlfriend told me like, wow, I care about you enough to say like you can share with me like what you're going through, and I won't like abandon you or leave you. And I was like, oh wow, this is crazy stuff. So um I tried I did EMDR, and I think it helped me a lot. I had a great EMDR therapist who was like a super sweet lady, like kind of like a mother figure, and she would just like listen to all this trauma and all these problems that I had, and like it definitely like relieves a lot of that. Like the EMDR helped me a lot, honestly. I had a stellate ganglion block in your neck, like a little shot for PTSD, because I had a lot of like trauma responses and stuff, like about abandonment. Like I could never be alone. I was always worried that something was gonna happen to my loved ones. Um, I also did ketamine, and psychedelics can be like a more holistic kind of like thing, I guess. But then again, therapy is holistic. But the ketamine, I feel like it did help in a sense, like I was there, and um I was just able to like get through the like freaking out part by myself, which a lot of times with borderline personality disorder, you have like a codependency problem. And you feel like you can't do things for yourself because like you're that child that's just needing love and needing attention, needing affection, needing someone else to solve your problems. So in that sense, that it helped me. But I also feel like in America right now, we're kind of in this place where like everyone just wants to like try it and do it and plug it, and like it's like the greatest thing ever. It's like magic juice. And I think that's kind of like people are gonna have some negative experiences in that sense. If you can really have negative experience with psychedelics, which you can, it can affect your life negatively if you're not in the right setting. And obviously, if you are gonna do it, I would do it with a trained professional in a supervised setting. Like, don't just try it by yourself, because you can end up having a rough experience, which you can work through eventually, I'm sure. But music has been a big thing. Like, there's an artist called Leon Bridges, and he had like hopeful songs. Surprisingly, like listening to like old like soul music and people like down and out, it helped me feel like, because that's how I felt inside. So it kind of helped me like feel understood. And then obviously like getting some of your anger and grunge and like Nirvana sometimes when you're angry. But like I realized like sometimes like artists, like I would listen to Alice in Chains Unplugged, and that can be good sometimes, but it can also help make you ruminate more on like the negative emotions and the sorrow and the heartbreak and the pain, especially more. um Distraction has been a big thing. Like it's like sometimes still I get triggered, and like it's so I can't react to it when I'm at 100. Like you cannot react to it then. You're overwhelmed with this like so you have to literally just be like, distract yourself if you can, as long as you can. And then when you come down to a 75 or a 60 or a 50, then you can like reach out. Like for example, a trigger for me would be my girlfriend going out and doing something and maybe not responding to her text message, right? And I'm like, my brain starts running with it, and I'm so nervous, and oh my God, what's she doing? She's probably doing this, she's probably doing that, she's probably doing this, she's probably doing that, she's probably doing this. And then like just like waiting time, just playing on my game. And obviously it's not always gonna work 100% of the time, but like letting time pass and distracting yourself can help so much. Like just your body won't be able to keep the energy up usually for that long. So also journaling, like just journaling, like just saying how you feel. Like so much I'm like thinking all this stuff. Oh, I feel like this, I feel, and it's like this complicated web in your head, and you can just throw it onto the paper and it helps you like it really helps you like get it out. But definitely like this video was kind of combobulated, and if anyone sees this, which I doubt, I don't know if anyone will, but if you do see this, definitely like 3 years ago, I could not even imagine that I'm at where I'm at right now. Like it was indescribable. Like can't even explain it. I've been in a relationship for like 6 years now. I love my girlfriend to death. She can go out of town with her friends, and it's still like, here we go. It's not like the end of the world, like where I need to go to like the hospital or freak out or just be angry and ruin my whole day and I have to ruminate on it. It's like, I worry about her safety and stuff like that, but like she can go and I can understand that she's not going to do anything because I know that she loves me, which is like crazy to think. Like I am able to think that. And just like my biggest important tips is like expose yourself to things like that. Like for example, a big trigger for me was my girlfriend drinking because I had alcoholic parents, and just sort of like exposing myself. The first time it sucks, it's hard, I'm freak out, oh my God, you don't love me anymore because you do this, I don't like when you do this, it makes me uncomfortable. The second time, yeah, again, third, and it kind of like, the effect it has on you is less and less and less. The biggest thing ever is like perspective. Like so like my girlfriend would be, let's say she went out with her friend, right, and I would be like freaking out, oh my God, she's doing this, freaking out, like just freaking out. You know how it is, you get just freaking hijacked by this fear and anxiety and all this stuff. But like perspective, this is probably the biggest thing for anxiety, is like being like, okay, what is she thinking right now? She's thinking, oh, I'm just a girl and I have a friend that's a girl and I want to go out and have fun with my friend. And obviously your brain, your BPD brain is gonna be like, no, can't do that. But another part of you, the wise brain, I guess they call it in DBT, is like, oh, I did DBT, that's not therapy, I tried. But your wise brain's like, oh, maybe she's just going out with a friend. And it's definitely like whispering, maybe she's my other friend. And your BPD brain's like, but perspective and trying to imagine from her perspective helps. Or like even saying this, I say this to myself. And obviously there's no normal people and don't be hard on yourself, but like what would a normal person be thinking like in this situation? Or what's an alternative perspective? And I don't want to be normal. I'm out there. I'm cool. But paradoxical reaction is like a big thing too. Like BPD is telling you to react. I guess I need to text her or call her name so that we have a fight. And I feel like she reaffirms that she loves me no matter what. And I have to test her. But however, if I do a paradox reaction and just make her feel supported, after like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the right perspective. Because what happens when you have BPD and you do what your BPD tells you to do, you feel even worse. It's like you shoot yourself in the foot. You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it's not fun at all. So, here's what I'm saying. The codependency is the biggest root cause of insecurity. That's an insight that I learned. Like when it's pretty simple and obvious, but like that's so true. I felt like for so long that I could not live without my girlfriend. If she left me, it would break my whole world apart. The more I learned to just be able to be with myself and like befriend myself and learn my wants, and I like to read books, I like to play these games, I like to do this and go for a walk in the park. The more you have a life outside of your partner, the more you feel like, wow, if something were to happen, and I hope this isn't triggering right now, everything's good. Everything's good. But if something were to happen, I think to myself, and obviously you don't want to be like, ruminate on that negatively, but if something were to happen, I still have a life outside of that. I still have all these things I like. Codependency, when you feel like you cannot live without the partner, that's the biggest cause for insecurity. Why? Because you're insecure. If you lose them, your world's over. But as far as like the term, like from DBT, like just coming to life worth living, I went from someone who didn't know who I was. Like I didn't know, I was obsessed with this, obsessed with that. I didn't know who I was. I couldn't befriend myself. I felt lonely and all this stuff. To I have tons of like health relationships with friends. I have a health relationship with my girlfriend, and I have like good relationship with a better relationship with my parents than I had, and I have good relationship with my brothers. And the biggest thing that like over time has helped me is just one is completely being honest with myself, like what's really going on. Like, okay, so I feel insecure right now. I feel afraid. I feel scared. I feel fear. I feel like I'm nothing. I'm the like smallest thing in the world, and my girlfriend is perfect and gonna be so successful and beautiful. I feel that way, and is that right? Like, is that true? Is that really accurate? And like another thing is like, okay, so sort of like befriending yourself, but also being like, I like approach yourself like you're really someone that you're trying to help. Like you want yourself to feel better. If that makes sense. Because like a lot of times BPD, we do things that sabotage ourselves, but like, what if I do things for myself that like I would do for a friend? And like learning to think of yourself as someone you want to help and take care of. Because you might have a lot of self-hate and self-loathing, which is definitely a common trait of BPD, but at the same time, like you might, that's now, but think about the child that back then that had to experience all that stuff. Like I would always think about the child, like what would they want me to do right now? Like how would they want me to feel? They would want me to be secure and healthy and safe. And the third thing I guess I would say is like, there's gonna be times, like I just remember this so much. I'd be having a great month, I'd feel great. The world's, I don't have what's BPD? I don't need BPD, all this stuff. And then guess what? I get triggered. Back to that scared animal who just bites anyone's hand that tries to help them because you're so afraid and so fear. You cannot be so hard on yourself. Like we evolved, we're just animals. Like you cannot, it's not the end of the world. Like so many times it's like, this is the end of the world. I'm gonna lose my girlfriend, I'm gonna lose my job, my family's gonna abandon me, I'm just gonna have to become this homeless person, or it's all gonna be over, it's all, my life's gonna come crashing down. And guess what? You wake up the next day and it's hard, but you just kind of climb your way back out of it again. And you just have to do that. Like you have to have hope, because I never thought I would get better with my borderline personality disorder, like how far I've come. And like, it's like almost inevitable. Like even letting time pass helps you get better. And like, just, you have to write down and notice like the patterns and in your life. Like if you can't introspect and be like, that's the biggest thing is like, one is being ignorant of things, like being ignorant of your patterns, like thinking the whole world's out to get you and stuff like that. The second thing is like seeing the patterns but thinking it's someone else. Like, you know what I mean? If you have all these people at work and you feel like none of them get along with you, you have to think internally, like maybe it's something that I've done. And obviously that can be super hard if you have BPD, but like you have to like think of yourself not as a work in progress, maybe a work in progress, but like say I love myself right now and I accept myself, like I'm perfect right now, but I can still change and get better. I know it's like paradoxical, but like the human mind is complicated, man. So, wow, I just ran it for like 30 minutes, but if anyone sees this, I just want you to know that like BPD, like you might be going through like the worst of 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 the worst right now and not even be able to imagine what it would feel like to be better. And like you feel like you're on fire and you're at a 10 of 10 emotion and your life's crashing apart. But like it's kind of like you're in a, I imagine I'm on a second story building, like walking, I'm on fire, like patting myself out, my whole life's crashing down. And then like I accidentally walk out like a second story window and fall through it, and I'm in the street, and like, you know, the fire slowly, like let's say I land in a puddle and this fire starts to sizzle off, and it's kind of cold and kind of nice and kind of beautiful, and like you kind of just walk, and then, you know, you're in a state of convalescence, like you just heal yourself, and you start in a bad place, but you can like, I don't know how to explain it. It's obviously hard to explain, but I just wish I had someone when I first had BPT. I could like look on the YouTube and be like, wow, this person has made a lot of progress and they're doing better and they feel like therapy's actually helped. But I have that person now, and that person is me. All right. Good luck, people.